I want to talk today about what I have taken away over the last almost 20 years of working in an entrepreneurial kind of business and coaching people and interviewing people. And I want to share what I'll call my research on the top three things that I think are really revealing to what gives people the power to make their goals come true. I mean, whether they're in business or in life. And, we all have these ideas, and then they might become wishes. And then at a certain point, we make them a goal. But especially in working with solo entrepreneurs, we can wish that our goal will come true, but they don't always come true. And it's a struggle. So I really want to help just reveal some of the things that I think will help you. I'm almost willing to guarantee you're going to get something from this. So first of all, I want you to just get grounded, put your feet on the floor. Imagine you're sitting in one of these beautiful red velvet chairs and just take a breath in, right down to your diaphragm. Take a breath in, breathe out, be here. Put your phone down, get your paper in front of you, and just spend an hour with me, an hour with yourself to try to discover what will make the difference for you this year. And just to start right off, I want to ask you and put it in your hands and give you the opportunity to answer that in the chat. Just give your initial answer to what would it be? What makes the difference to achieving your goals, to making your most serious dreams come true? What makes a difference? What would you say if you were here speaking to everybody? And maybe that's the thing that you're looking for to make the difference in your career or in your success right now. What do you think it would take to bring you your goals? What do you say would make the difference? Or you could think of it, what has made the difference so far when you've been able to reach a goal? What are the things that have helped you? Come up with your own answer first, and write it down. And please add it in the chat as things come up. Balancing, belief that you can do it. Oh, these are all so good. A butcher that I was coaching this last year asked me at our last session, in all seriousness and like complete vulnerability, Sue, do you think it would make a difference if I lost weight? Honestly asking me, do you think it would make a difference to my success, to my business, if I lost some weight? Now, let me ask you, would you prefer to buy your meat from a skinny butcher? Of course not. In fact, the opposite is probably true. But why did he ask that question, right? Why did he ask? Let me tell you that unless you need to be an influencer on Instagram or a real housewife of New Jersey or a fashion model, like unless you need to have this as your goal and success, these are your careers, it does not matter about your looks. That does not determine your success. And I want to talk about what does make the difference to your success, the things that you can grab a hold of and do. And I'm going to share the difference on what will help you, bring your gifts to the forefront, how to release your gifts, how to do your business well, and really how to choose to use what you've got. You already have it inside. I mean, we all do, and it's a constant journey to find those things. But to be successful, first, we have to start with what's your definition of success? Yes, what is that, by the way? Maybe jot that down for a minute. What is your definition of success? Because are you conscious that the American media should not be defining what success is for you or for me or for anyone? That should be in our hands. I don't want you to be sucked into the social narrative of what media tells us success should be. That is a heart-to-heart thing. I love what Greek philosopher Epicurus says, that it's not what we have, but what we enjoy that constitutes our abundance. What I find interesting about him was he was born into slavery. He didn't even own himself for all those years. And as he grew, he became a philosopher and studying humanity. And even After all that time, he still says, look, it's not about how much money you have, what you own, what you have, but it is about what you enjoy, what you enjoy. So I hope that you will consider what success is for you. Begin to define that or redefine it. Maybe it's changed a little bit over time. So do that for some homework and think about what you want success to mean for you. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a conference in Florida, as you may have seen if you follow me on social. And I heard Jay Shetty speak in the morning. He is a wellness speaker. And if you don't know him already, he has podcasts. Oh, he's the guy who wrote the book. So he did study, he became a monk. He gave a great presentation on, the whole body and wellness. And he told this story I want to share with you. Not really a story, a study that he came across. And in this study, they shared what they had found in America is what they determined to be the hardest job. And they said that the hardest job from their study was to be a hospital cleaner. Okay, that was what their study said. And he found that very interesting because most of us, if we were going to take a job being a cleaner, we might not esteem that job very much. We might think it doesn't pay very well. For most of us, that would be a job low on the totem pole. Nobody wants to be a cleaner. You're a cleaner if you can't get another job, etc. You hear what I'm saying? But what Jay shared from this study was that when they researched the employees who did this job, the hardest job, these hospital cleaning staff said things like they weren't just doing this for the money. It wasn't the last job they could get, that cleaning hospitals was their mission, that they were born to clean, that in their ability to clean the hospital rooms, they were providing healing, that people could heal and get better, that doctors could do their work in a clean surgery room, that families could feel safe and allow the healing to come because the room was clean. They had a purpose because they were born, special cleaners. And through their cleaning power, that was their superpower. So these hospital cleaners were releasing their superpower, their gift. They saw it not as low work at the bottom of the totem pole. They saw it as the highest level of work, as the work of healing, a glorious contribution to the world. And I thought that was very interesting mindset on how we perceive, our value and sharing our value. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying and I'm saying it clear enough. And I want to share, he wrote Think Like a Monk. Sorry, I can see some of the notes there. I will try not to be distracted as we go along. But I want to talk about things that make a difference that are in our control, being aware of our gifts and our superpowers. And I'll let you sit with that there for a minute, because I also want to acknowledge that in reaching our goals and having success, there are things out of our control. The timing of things, the market, oh my goodness, the real estate market these past few years. First, we thought it was going to die and people's businesses were going to, just be dead. And then it bloomed, so having good luck, having bad luck, having an accident, there are things that are out of our control that happen that can get in the way of things. And also, just for a moment, I think we must acknowledge that there are things that we do or allow ourselves to do that get in the way of our success, that stall, interrupt, sabotage us, and our limiting beliefs. Those are real things. Same circumstance, different people have different experiences. When I was in Florida for a moment outside of the conference, I just stood out in the sun, for a few minutes. And most of us, I think, enjoy just basking in the sun. Oh, it's beautiful. The plants grow, the flowers bloom. It feels good if you're a person who likes that. But if you're a snowman and the sun's beating down on you, it's going to melt you. So it is true that there are things that some people might enjoy that might cause a meltdown for other people. And we have to acknowledge that, you might be really affected by something that someone else didn't feel affected by at all. Maybe just think for a minute about what you see getting in the way of your success, or see what's getting in the way of other people's success. Sometimes it's easier to see it, when it's not ourselves. What stops you, when everything is going right? What stops you? What stops the power of yourself? I'll give you a couple of examples, because over the years, I have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who've had death in the family. And one fellow in particular, his mom had died 9 years ago. And he just told me, admitted to me, he couldn't get over it. I mean, as if that's something to get over, but he couldn't get past it. He couldn't, stand in his health. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that poor mother who's now in eternity, having this beautiful eternal existence, but she knows that her son is held hostage in grief and she can't come down and heal him. What a tragedy. And I remember feeling like if I ever died unexpectedly and my kids were stuck in their grief, I wouldn't want them to be stuck there. And yet, so many people that I coach are stuck in their grief. So, I mean, there's big things like that. There's life and death things, but there's also seemingly small things that can get in our way of every day. I have my youngest daughter is Sarah, and she just became a journeyman mechanic. So she went through her 4 years of college at SAIT, and she went through her 4 years of practical, and she wrote her exam and she passed it finally. But in her own knowledge, she knew, okay, well, I'm not 100% yet. Well, when she was working at the shop, one day she had to go away for an appointment. And when she came back, they assigned her to the wash bay. And all of her own limiting beliefs, came to the forefront. Oh my gosh, she thought, they found me out. I'm not as good as I should be. They probably realize I'm too slow. I ask too many questions. These were her own doubts coming to the surface. Luckily, she did get up the courage to ask her boss, why did you put me in the wash bay? But it was totally different on their side. They loved Sarah. They respected her. They liked her. They knew she wasn't feeling that well, so they thought they would do her a favor. What they did for a favor affected her like a punishment, so the way we interpret things really makes a difference to our success. And later she found out she was pregnant, so that's why she was not feeling that well. So I hope I'm saying what I'm trying to say. Sometimes just because something is good or easy for one party doesn't make it good or easy for everyone to deal with. And we have to assess ourselves what is stopping us in our track. If there's anything that's taking our confidence away, what is that and what could we do about it? And I would highly encourage you to assess and repair and do something about your health and wellness. You've got to take care of your own self before you can really take care of your business or succeed with your future goals. When I was about 4 years old, we lived in Prince Rupert, BC, and there was a big thunderstorm that night in Prince Rupert. 4 years old, at 6 p.m. We just sat down to dinner. We were sitting in the living room for a treat. We had TV trays, and Maxwell Smart was just coming on TV. Dun, dun, dun. I still remember the music. My mom and her friend were in the kitchen, and her friend's husband, Pete, was sitting on the couch next to me. And I had just stuck a meatball in my mouth when the whole living room window crashed in on us. Like, Pete got a glass spear into his leg. By some miracle, my sister and I just were touched by glass sprinkles. It was for sure like that was the drama, absolutely. But what I want to say about this experience was it wasn't the actual windstorm that caused the window to break in. Yes, it was 60 mile an hour winds, miles, not kilometers. But what caused the window to break in was that when that wind came, the house across the street from us, they'd been repairing the roof for whatever reason. And I don't know if they clocked out at 3 to go get drinks on a Friday afternoon, or if there was just too much work to finish, but they left the roof in disrepair. They left the roof in a vulnerable state. And just happened that a big windstorm came through that night and was able to rip that roof off and throw it across the street. So you see, if you could ask yourself, is there anything in a vulnerable state in my life? Is there anything that's in disrepair that I need to put into repair? And don't take long. Don't get lazy. Don't just let it lie because a storm didn't come through today and everything is okay. I don't want a sudden storm to come through and then things to be torn into pieces for you, and you have more things, to make repair of. It was a highly emotional experience, and I know we all have trauma. I know this isn't an unusual story or uncommon, but the trauma, however it affects us in our life, leaves us with that PTSD, that reaction. I can tell you for years after, anytime I heard the wind outside, I was like, oh my gosh, I know the window can be blown in. And so it took many years not to have that kind of reaction anymore. But that trauma keeps us in a primitive part of our brain. And when we end up making decisions or try to make plans as on top of fear as a base, or in a highly habitual insecurity of things, then it's hard for our goals to work out. So I want to encourage everyone, what you want to do is take the reins and learn to use that force, whatever that force was for you. Take the reins and learn to use that force to fly. The wind can pull a roof off of a house, it could uproot a tree, but it can also take a 50,000-pound plane and lift it into the sky and take you to paradise if you manage that force. It's the same force, a different outcome. So if there's something you think is blocking you that you need to get over, bring the drama to your mama. Let me help you. Let somebody help you deal with it. And use that force to take you to a higher level. Use it as a stumbling block, turn it over into a stepping stone. You can step on top of it and get where you want to go. Okay, that was my little caveat, my little, just take notice of these things. Now, let me share the top 3 keys that I want to say that we have control of. And I share them because part of everyone's journey ongoing is to discover what will make the difference for me right now. Aristotle said, knowing thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. And, if you were a CEO of a big company and you did executive coaching, you know what they would coach you on? Getting to know yourself better, becoming a better version of yourself. So you are the CEO of your company. You are the CEO of your life. The top revealing key is the story that we tell ourselves. I always used to tell my kids when they were little, well, think you can or think you can't. Either way, you're going to be right. Thank you, Henry Ford, for that quote. But that's true. That story in our head, can I do it? Yes, I can do it. Do it. Just do it. It makes a big difference in how we manage ourselves. A couple of years ago, I was with my grandson at Ingenation. Oh, I don't think this is going to work. Okay. Well, I had a beautiful video. It shows in PowerPoint. Maybe it doesn't in Prezi, but if you can imagine my 8-year-old grandson running up a wall and making it to the top for his first time. And then he gave himself a little cheer, woohoo, and the guy came over. This was a big moment in his life. And I recorded it. But what you don't see on the video, if you would have seen it, were all the misses that he had for the last hour trying to run up this wall. Honestly, after a couple, I would have given up myself. But he saw someone else do it. And so he knew it was possible for him. And he kept running and running until he did it. he had that story in his head, like, I think I can do it. And you should have that story in your head too, because you can do it. Think, act like a child. They are so tenacious. The fact is that most people don't fail at business. Did you know that? Most people don't fail, they give up. And so if things aren't going right for you, I want to challenge you. Go left. I don't want you to give up. Figure out a way. And point number one is a big part of that way. It's that story that you're telling yourself. It's that story in your head. So in 2018, the Stampeders, yay, my favorite football team, they won the Grey Cup. And after they won, they did interviews with the players, and they interviewed the defensive coach, Devon Claybrook. And he was asked a very interesting question, I thought. The interviewer said, how do you motivate your players? Because it was one on defense, his special team. So how do you motivate someone to be a winner like that? And I thought his answer was very revealing, because what he said was, I don't coach for motivation. They come motivated or they don't get on the team. Getting people to be motivated to become winners is not really something a coach can say, oh, well, do this and now you're done. That is something each person, all of us have to find. But if you believe your doubts and doubt your beliefs, as they say, that fear, it sabotages us at a cellular level. Like you can't see it, but it's working. So it's not that you have to get rid of your fear. It's not that you have to get rid of your doubt. You have to feel the fear and do it anyways. But if you can shift that fear into your motivation and understand, okay, what are my values? Doing a values exercise would be a great idea. What is my passion? Why am I passionate about it? If you take your values and your passion, that will give you a solid story that you can stand on to reach your goals. Now, one of my favorite leaders on values is John Demartini. So if anybody hasn't ever done a values exercise, I know he has a website with a free values course, and you can go through the questions and find out, what do you value and what would make the difference in your life? Because the story that we tell ourselves is something important that we have to stand on. The first official book that I ever wrote is called Be Extraordinary, Right Where You Are. And in it, I tell the story of Roger Bannister. If you recognize that name, it's because he was the first man to run the 4-minute mile. What they said was, the first line is, how did he know he wouldn't die? To run a mile in 4 minutes, they thought was impossible before he did it. Roger, though he wasn't even a lifetime runner, he was a young medical student. And when he was watching the Olympics, he just thought to himself, he had this idea, I think it's possible that the mile could be run in under 4 minutes. And then he set out. Again, he wasn't a runner before that, but he set out to train. He went to the Olympics in 1954 and he did it. He broke through the barrier. Now, as soon as Roger did it and broke through that barrier, it was like within 42 days that the next person did it. Oh, now that we know it's possible, now we can do it. Are your goals possible? That's all you need to know. Is this possible? And then it does equip you to do it. The challenge we often have is dealing with that doubt in our minds. So every year, I take an executive coaching session with Keith Hanna. Lovely man. He was the coach for Brett Wilson years ago, and that dragon off Dragon's Den was having quite a bit of problems. And Keith helped him turn his life around. And so once a year on my birthday, I take a session with Keith. And a couple years ago, that first year of COVID, I was so distraught. I didn't know what was going to happen. All my speaking presentations canceled. What was going to happen with my business? I was really worried. And we sat down for lunch and I said to Keith, I declared, Keith, if I don't reach my goals this year, then forget it. That's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I was pretty spanky, I'll tell you. And he just looked at me and he said, why would you ever quit your passion? Why would you quit your passion? And I had this big aha moment, like, why would I quit my passion? You know why? Because I believed my doubts and I doubted my beliefs. But he went on to explain that when we have passion for something, like if you're passionate for something, that just doesn't mean, oh, that's fun and that's glorious. Passion in the Latin root of that word means suffering. So passion is equivalent to suffering for your craft. You know, in the Bible, we talk about the passion of the Christ, which literally is the suffering of the Christ. You know, there is suffering in doing your passion. So whatever you're compelled to do, know that it's okay to have that suffering moment. It's your passion that'll see you through. But what you want to be careful of is that story that you're allowing yourself to hear. Do you hear the negatives? Do you hear your self-doubts? And are you giving that a space to listen to? Instead of going, you know, boldly forward and saying, yes, it is possible. Yes, I will prove it. That's the balance that we all juggle back and forth. What should I do? What should I believe? So I wonder if anyone does struggle with that at any time. Would you be willing to do a little experiment? Just put it out there and see if your passion will result in your goals being reached. I'll tell you, I always thought I was supposed to be a speaker of some kind. I was born, I always saw myself standing up, you know, on a stage talking to people. I've always been in acting or in plays. I always gravitate towards that. And at the beginning of my career, after we moved to Calgary, I had started speaking, but for free, for volunteers, you know, because I wanted to speak and I feel drawn to that. But it rarely was for money, you know, and I thought, well, you can't make a living at speaking. Yet I saw that other people were making a living at speaking. So I thought, well, I guess it's possible, but is it possible for me? And so I did a test. I did an experiment. I had volunteered and spoken for an international company, the International Association of Administrative Professionals, and I knew they had chapters in every city. So I picked 3 cities where I thought, okay, I'd like to go visit this city. Let me see if I could get a speaking engagement there paid for at a city. Let me do a test, see if this works. Can I make money doing what I love instead of doing what I hated? And so I picked 3 and I sent emails, did the research, found their emails. And then I waited for a really long time. Honestly, nothing happened for quite a while. But one day I got an email from Gloria from San Diego. And she said, hey, Sue, let me talk to you. We have our annual event coming up. And she agreed to hire me for it. And they agreed to put me up in a hotel overnight. So I was check mark, this works. Maybe I am meant to be a speaker. Maybe I can make money doing this. And so I flew down there. It was my first time to San Diego. I spoke at their event, but afterwards, I felt like I had done a terrible job. I had this imagination that I was going to be like Oprah or Tony Robbins strutting across the stage, you know, and everyone be hanging on every word. But I know I forgot a little portion and I had to circle back. And then I chickened out of singing this little song that I was going to sing. So I really felt like I had bombed. All my imaginations, what I thought it was going to be like, it wasn't like. Now that was for me. Everyone else there seemed to enjoy it. I sold out of my books. Gloria was happy, but it was me. I didn't think it was as fun as I thought it was going to be. And so I went back to the hotel room, and all night till I fell asleep, those bullies in my head were just beating me up until I passed out. What I forgot, how bad it went. Do you ever have that? Those bullies in your head? Just not because what anybody else said to you, but just because what you say to yourself. You know, the bullies inside our head are a lot worse than the bullies out there in the classroom. But I'll tell you what happened. And this is true, I promise. So the next morning I wake up and I'm trying to shake it off, but I'm feeling anxious. But I'm going to stay in San Diego for a few days. So I want to get feeling good. I'm getting ready for my day. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? It didn't go as good as you thought, Susan. So now you know you're not as good of a speaker as you thought you were. You don't maybe want to do this. And you know what? You don't have to. You can stop speaking, stop your speaking career, go back and do your job. It's no problem. No one's forcing you to do it. So give it up, lay it down, take a breath, relax. So I'm in the shower. I take a deep breath and I am trying to relax. When I look up and through the water, I see these words. Speak, man. I couldn't believe it. Of course, I broke down and cried my eyes out because that was what I really wanted to do. Now, who knew there was an actual hardware company called Speakman? But I have looked them up, and it's true. There is a hardware company called Speakman, and there it was in the shower for me when I was at my lowest moment, doubting my beliefs. Now, I hope you don't need a shower head to confirm your passion to you, but if you did, what would the shower head say to you? If you knew in your own gut, if you had that inkling, like, I think, but if you've just been talking yourself out of it, what would the shower head say to you? Just take a minute, ask yourself, write it down. Maybe if you try, maybe you're not that perfect at first. I had to learn so many things about speaking. I had to try, I had to practice, I had to test it. I'm still learning things I never thought I'd want to learn. I'm still learning. But now, after that confirmation, the story is different in my head. I'm compelled to speak no matter what. So when you get that confirmation, can I ask you to trust it? You can trust your own gut, trust it, and hear what the shower head would say to you. You are brave. You are powerful. You can do it. You are a successful fill in the blank. Yes, you can find the answers. Yes, you can build this business. Yes, you can make decisions. Yes, you are going to get that clarity. If you can get your brain into a useful state, if that story that you're telling, if it matches with what you want to do, you will be the leader of yourself. As the leader of yourself, you could tell yourself what to think and have it match up. And so once that story supports you, then the next key, which I just gave you in the reveal, are your habits, those consistent incremental steps, the little things that you have to do. Now, Mr. Rogers, if any of you watched him, like I did when I was a kid, had a little song about this. Let me sing it to you, and I hope you'll read the words and let it sink in. That you can make believe it happens or pretend that something's true. You can wish or hope or contemplate a thing you'd like to do. But until you start to do it, you will never see it through. Because the make-believe pretending just won't do it for you. You've got to do it. And on he goes onto the chorus. But I'm not going to leave you there. I like his next verse as well. Listen. If you want to ride a bicycle and ride it straight and tall, you can't simply sit and look at it because it won't move at all. But it's you who have to try it, and it's you who have to fall sometimes. If you want to ride a bicycle and ride it straight and tall, it just hits my heart. You're the one who has to go and try your business. You're the one that's on the line. I don't know why it's hitting me so hard, but maybe it's hitting somebody there that's listening. It is a risk. You have to try it. And you know what? Sometimes you are going to fall, but you can't just wish about it. You can't just contemplate. You have to take action. So that's reveal number 2, your daily habits. What makes all the difference? If you've got that story in your head, then it's that action. I think someone said at the beginning, it's the action that you have to take. Consistency, resiliency, putting simple habits into place. But I'll tell you, there's a challenge because human nature is lazy. Our natural state of being is one of comfort. It is a challenge to push ourselves and do new habits. So bad habits really, they can become lingering. What are some bad habits that you see in other people? What are these bad habits that keep people from reaching their goals? Some of those things, and please feel free to write in the chat if I've missed any, but being procrastinating, being lazy, unwilling to ask for help, that's a bad habit. Wasting time, we're all doing that on social media. If you don't keep your word, if you're not following a process, even thinking small or feeling stuck or being in that paralysis by analysis, limiting yourself, making it okay for you to give up. It doesn't have to be okay. Now, the truth is, I was just reading this book, Think Like a Rocket Scientist. If you haven't read it, awesome book by a rocket scientist. And one of the things he said in there is, we don't rise to the level of our expectations. It's not just your expectations. It's not just your dreams and desires that you're automatically going to rise up to. We actually fall to the level of our training. So if you don't have those habits into place, you can't fulfill them. So let me ask if you would be willing to replace one of those good habits and replace one of those bad habits, and make it a good habit. Any one of these bad habits, if you turn it, the opposite is a good habit. Do things right away. Ask for the help that you need. Follow a clear process. Have a system. Would you be willing to replace one of your bad habits with a good habit? Most people say yes, but only 98% of people do. Yeah. And those 2% who say yes, they are the ones who will execute, who will suffer for their passion, and they're the ones who will also reap the rewards of doing the job that they need done. They are the ones who will be able to, you'll be able to pat yourself. I believe it's probably the 2% who are on this call who want to know, what else can I do? What can I put into place? In Calgary here, we have what's called the Calgary Tower. And when it was built in 1967, year after I was born, it was a beacon. Hello, come to Calgary. Come here, do your business. It was energy. They wanted people to come and have their business here. And so when they built it, the tallest building at that time, they did a special continuous concrete pour, and there's over 10,000 tons of concrete in that tower. I also write about that in my book. It's so interesting. Lots of things about it are interesting, but the one thing I want to share today is in that 10,000 tons of concrete that's in that Calgary Tower, 60%, over half of that is under the ground. You don't even see it. You see the height of the building, but you don't see the work that's gone on underneath. It's the glory that you cannot see, but you can't build a tall building without having a big enough foundation. And your habits are all about building a good foundation. How high do you want to go? How tall does your building need to be? If you do not put the things in place to support you, and you keep growing taller, you keep getting business and more clients, you'll implode under the weight of success. You won't be able to go taller. I meet entrepreneurs every day who are trying to build $1 million business, but they're using what I would call $100 habits. So if you want to have a big business, you cannot support that with $100 habits. So put your good habits into place. Good habits, like it's the end of the year right now. Everyone could and should be creating a business plan for their business going forward. You should be having a plan for constant lead generating. How are you going to get clients? You should have real mindful marketing. How is your brand? Build that up. And even making memories with your clients so they'll come back and refer you. Even making memories with your family so that you'll have relationships that you can count on and that will support you when you get old. Doing the right habits, okay, at the right time. I know all of us are busy, but all of us aren't busy doing the right things. Sometimes we're doing the busy stuff, which is the BS. So you want to make sure you're assessing, doing the right habits, one step at a time. I think sometimes we're discouraged to just take one small step because we're looking for this big outcome over here. But we have to take that small step right here, right now. You have to start here, or you cannot get there. You have to start here, take a step, another step. Make this the day that you're going to start that and take that step. And if you don't know what steps to take, if you're not sure, for goodness sake, if you haven't read The Little Red Stick, I poured my heart into a book that has 5 habits that drive solopreneur profits. Habits that drive your success. If you haven't read it, you can email me at the end It's $20 for a book, and get started on finding those things that you need to do. So commit to doing a good habit today. I hope you'll write that down, do it for your homework, and think about those things. Now, once you get your good habits into place, once you replace your bad habits and you've got a business plan and you know what you're going to do to go forward, then the third reveal is that you have got to keep trying until it happens, until it works out. This is the habit of tenacity and resilience. On my podcast, I'm sure you've all heard Mind Your Own Business podcast. I have done almost 40 episodes now. And last year I did a survey back to all of my interviewees. And I asked them, what do you think has made the difference in your success? Because they've all reached success in their own right. What's made the difference for you? And every single one of them said in their own words, this key. And this is what you will say to people too. When you've made it, when you've been a success, it will be your version of this, that somehow I managed to keep going. Somehow I managed to keep trying. You know, there's that saying, if you're going through hell, don't stop, keep going. You have to come out the other side. If you can manage to keep going and keep trying, even though it's hard, then you will have that success. I mean, we've all had our times of going through hell. Certainly I have too. If you haven't heard my story very briefly, when I moved to Calgary after a disappointing divorce, of course, I guess that's always disappointing. And then I went to work, and one of the jobs was with a very abusive boss. Oh my gosh, you know, that's the worst. And then I got up the courage to quit that job, you know, good for me, except it left me jobless with 4 kids to feed and no savings. There was no way I could find my way out. So we had to claim bankruptcy, you know, which, you know, put another level of death on a person. And at my lowest moment, I was taking bottles. I was, you know, going to my neighbors and asking if they had bottles that I could take to a bottle depot just to be able to afford a birthday dinner for my son. And, you know, when I was at the bottom, I went to Chapters one day. I'm like, I need to find an answer. Maybe there's a book or something I could read. Please, God, tell me what I need to do. I'm so upset and I felt so hopeless. When you're looking for the answer, when your heart is there and you're looking, you will find it. I will highly encourage you will find it and it will hit you. So I'm going to leave Chapters. I hadn't found anything when on my way to the door, my eyes hit this book, this big black book. Oh, I was so mad. And I went and I picked it up. It's Integrity by Dr. Henry Cloud. But I picked that book up in one last final attempt, if there's anything, and I flipped it open randomly. And I landed on these words: things never work. When they don't, that is the time to make them work. And then if you do, they work. I got tears in my eyes in Chapters because I knew that was God was saying to me, yes, Sue, I have seen you've been putting out the resumes. You've been trying. Things haven't worked out yet, but you can't stop here. You've got to keep trying. So it helped change the story in my head. It gave me, I kept reading on, it gave me some actions to take. Now, I hope your current crisis is not divorce, bankruptcy, single parenting. I hope it's not that bad. But hey, I know every day we're going through stuff. And maybe they're not a super crisis of life and death, but they still might be hitting you like that. But it's our ability, let me tell you, to keep trying. Like Nathan kept trying to get up a wall. Who even thought you could run up a wall? You know, who was the first person who did that? You can run up a wall. You can get that goal. You can get out of debt. You can recover from an illness. You can have forgiveness in a relationship. These things, the goals that you're thinking about, are possible. They are possible for you. But you've got to find that story and the actions and have the tenacity to keep trying. That book, Integrity, that changed the trajectory of my life. I don't know if anyone else, if you have a good book that has changed your life, please pop it in the chat. people's lives can be changed just by reading the words on a page. And I know every time I do a presentation, people mention good books. Pop them in the chat there if you have something. A really good book that saved my second marriage from divorce is Relationship Matters by Mark Gordon. And he actually lives in Kelowna, relationship counselor. I mean, we have him on speed dial, a great book about pillars of relationship. If you want to build relationships, you need to work on those. If you need to build relationships with children, if you have anyone in your life that's under 2 till 5 years old, I wrote a rhyming book, like a Dr. Seuss kind of a book that will give you time that you could just sit and share some rhyming stories with those people that matter in your life and build relationships. So if anyone has books to share, please share them, and let's, take the opportunity to dive in and get a good book. Now, if you have a piece of paper, I'm going to recommend that you do a little exercise that might help you, is to draw a circle at the bottom. This is where you are here, and draw a circle at the next level that you want to get to. Where's that next level? Draw them from here to here on your own piece of paper. And then ask yourself, what is the next step? What is missing? What would help you turn that stumbling block into a stepping stone? For some people, the answer might be what you came up with at the beginning of this session. It might be what you answer to what would make the difference. That actually might be an answer for you. But it might be one of these reveals. So I don't want you to stay in this place and suffer here. You need to know that there's a way to get there and to keep trying until. But often when we can't reach our goal, or we don't know the way, or we're not seeing it, we suffer in place, and then we get depressed, and then we get down. When Tony Robbins, I heard him do an interview one time, and he was talking about, he met Nelson Mandela, who was in prison, for trying to change the world. And he asked Nelson Mandela, how did you cope in prison? How did you manage the suffering? Because Tony Robbins' gift is to help people stop suffering. And when Tony Robbins said what Nelson Mandela replied, I didn't suffer, I prepared. Wow, that changed a lot of how I was thinking too. And you do not have to suffer where you are. You know where the goal is? Prepare. How can you prepare to get there? How could you prepare for the fulfillment instead of suffering? What if your goal was in reach? What if it was just around the corner? Are you prepared for the goals that you want to have happen? So if you, tomorrow or next week, turned that corner and your goals landed in your lap, are you ready? Have you got everything prepared? Have you got time blocking so well mapped out that when you're busy with work at full capacity, you still have protected family time and relationships? Is your office so prepared that in a moment you can scale your business and you have everything in reach? Have you got meals prepared? Maybe you're going to need to grab and go for meals. So maybe there's something you could do to prepare for the goal that's coming. And as you prepare, can I suggest or remind you, you are not in prison, at least not a physical prison. We are not in prison, and we are free to be out there and doing what we can do. So can I suggest bloom right where you're at. Start walking it out like you're walking into that goal, and open up yourself and act as if you are already walking into your goal. I was on a walk one time, and I'm on this path, and I see in this ditch, this crowded, grassy, weedy ditch, these two beautiful irises growing. And I'm looking around, I'm like, where did these irises come from? I didn't see a house that had a garden of irises. It was a mystery to me, but I stopped and I looked, and I could imagine that those irises didn't start growing up and go look at each other. Oh, what's this? Oh, we've landed in a terrible ditch. Oh, this is awful. No, I'm not going to bloom here. No, let's wait until we're in a beautiful garden. No, they bloomed right where they were planted. And when they bloomed, they created a beautiful garden that I stopped to look at. Do you hear what I'm saying? To go ahead and bloom, act like it's happening anyways. But I know sometimes you try and bloom and then nothing happens. And so you close up anyways. Oh, I tried it. No, it didn't happen. Well, there's a saying, you're not the only one who's ever tried that and had it happen. But there's a saying that the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom. You know, they say that when the flowers bloom, the bees come uninvited. When you put yourself out there, it comes uninvited. And I know, what if you bloom and no bees come to suck your pollen? You know, have you ever been there? I have been there too. But guess what? Everyone has. It's part of the journey. It's okay. I mean, can you imagine if Steve Jobs, when they excused him, sorry, thanks, Steve, you built up Apple and now can you leave us? Can you imagine what if he would have stopped blooming? He didn't know he was going to come back and do his magic more, but he didn't stop blooming. What if J.K. Rowling, after all the rejections of her manuscripts, what if she would have stopped writing or stopped trying? But she didn't, did she? No. The thing is, there's no chance for you if you stop blooming. So you've got to bloom. I want to encourage you to find that way to try until. And yes, it might not go perfectly. You might lose a job. You might get a divorce. You might get sick. You might go bankrupt. You might lose a loved one. You might have a challenge with family or parents or loved ones. But when you get knocked down to the ground, when you're trying, it doesn't seem to be working out. If no bees are coming to suck your pollen, what can you do? Let me tell you. Winston Churchill nailed it. We can go from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. How? If someone said it who was fighting a war against Hitler, then certainly the war that you're fighting to build your business, to grow your family, to have a good relationship is totally possible for you. Be willing to take the opportunity. Don't just sit there praying, hoping something will work. Don't feel defeated. Don't give in to that. You've got to take the opportunities that come your way. Make opportunities. Make your opportunities. Let me tell you about the god of opportunity. They say this is the young son of Zeus, the god of opportunity. And when he comes by, if you see him coming by, make that picture bigger. If you reach out to grab the opportunity when it comes, he has long hair at the front. And so you'll easily be able to catch him. But if you wait too long, if you hesitate, he's bald at the back and says you'll never be able to get that opportunity again. So let me encourage you, keep trying until. And just before I wrap up, may I give you a bonus reveal that just one person can also make the difference. Many of us think what makes a difference is like everyone knows you, you're a big brand, you have all of the money. But what I want to point out is that sometimes just one person can make a difference. If you can shift from thinking you have to be great and big to shift to just being aware of that one person in front of you at the moment. I had one guest on my podcast was David Olton, I think around episode 30 or 31. And he's an actor. He's a Canadian actor. He's also a realtor. I'll encourage you to listen to the story out of his own mouth. But David talked about he did not have a good home life. He went to acting school, acting academy. And he was flying from Edmonton down to, I think, LA to meet some friends who were in this acting with him. And on the plane, the man sitting next to him was reading the script. So they started talking. This man had written the script and he was making this movie. David told him, shared a little bit about his sucky home life. And the man kind of felt for him and said, why don't you come and be on the movie with me? Let me see what we can do, get you a little role here. And so David went and was on this movie. On that set, he met one of the women there who was an older woman, took him under her wings, and they really clicked. When the movie was over, she asked him, David, are you going back to that home that wasn't a very good home life? And he said, I guess so. Got nowhere else to go. And she said, I want you to come and live with me. Come to my house. And long story short, she adopted him as his new mother. I mean, one person making a difference in getting a new mother in your life. And you can see the truth and authenticity, from David. Has anyone ever made a difference in your life? A teacher or a neighbor or a friend? I'm sure we've all had those people who just by saying something or connecting us with somebody, you don't know it's going to work out, but you're the one who does this for your clients and families and friends too. In your own special caring way, someone can make a difference for you, and you can also make a difference for someone else. Just doing that one person by reaching out and taking one opportunity. But I guess the question I want to leave you with for today is not, what has made the difference in all these people's lives? I've shared lots what's made the difference in mine. But can I ask you to answer this question? What will make the difference for you and for your personal well-being, for your family, for your work and career? Yes. What will make the difference for you for reaching your goals? You're the only one who can answer that for yourself. And I challenge you to answer it. Make yourself answer it. Come up with your own ideas so that then you can turn around and make a difference for others. Okay. I've reached my hour. Let me briefly summarize for you. I hope you're taking something away. Number one, please don't sabotage your success. Make sure that you are taking care of your limiting beliefs. Number two, get that story in your head. You tell yourself what that story is. You're the author, and go with your passion. Go with your intuition. Listen to your gut. Know that it's okay that you will suffer a little bit for your passion, but put good habits into place and keep it up. Keep up the good work. And yes, you might be the person who makes a difference, and there might be a person who's going to make a difference for you. Now, in just wrapping up, please visit me. I have a YouTube channel, and all my podcasts are on there. You can watch them, but yes, you can listen on Spotify and iTunes especially. If you need more clients, on my website, SueStyles.com, there's a business school tab. And for a very inexpensive amount, you can watch a course for finding more clients. And if you're starting a business, or if you know someone who is, I've got a School of Business that's an essential foundational course. Again, very reasonably priced. And connect with me. You probably all have my email already, but if you don't have my book, I invite you to email me and I'll send you a copy of the book. Listen to the podcast. And thank you very much for listening today. Please follow and review if you enjoy these podcasts, and then visit me at SueStyles.com.